Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Simply BI. My name is Harshit and today we are going to learn about the top 10 Power BI interview questions, okay? And these are all the scenario based interview questions which you might face in your next Power BI interview, right? So let's start, okay? So when we are talking about a Power BI interview scenario based questions, okay? There are many different categories on which you can be asked, you can be tested upon, okay? So I have classified few of the categories and I have picked some of the questions which are frequently asked during your Power BI interview. So let us start, right? So the very first thing is the category of data preparation. So the scenario based question can be like you have been given a data set with the inconsistent data format, date formats, and there are some missing values, okay? So now how will you clean this data and how will you prepare this data for the data analysis using the Power BI? Okay, this question tests your knowledge like data and how you can use this data, okay, to prepare the reports in Power BI, right? The next category is about the data modeling. So when we talk about the data modeling, there is a very important question which comes or which is every time asked by the interviewer is about the schema which you use before building your Power BI reports, right? So the question is like, what is the difference between a star schema and a snowflake schema? Why would you choose one over the another? And what are the implications of these things in the performance, right? So this is very important interview question when you are applying for a Power BI developer roles. Okay, so be prepared. When you are preparing for this, make sure that you know your schema very well. The next question comes is from the data visualization category. Okay, so let's say that imagine you need to create a dashboard, okay, to show the sales performance of a company over the last year. Okay, now what type of visualization will you use? How will you ensure that that dashboard which you have created communicates the key insight which you wanted to show to your stakeholders or the client, right? So this is very important, and in this data visualization section only there can be many questions. There can be questions like, okay, this is the data I have given to you and I want this type of results from this data. Now can you tell me which visualization you will use, which visual you will use, and why will you use it, right? So make sure when you are preparing for the data Power BI interview role, okay, when you are preparing for the Power BI developer roles, ensure that you are very well prepared with all the type of visuals. What are the implications? How can you achieve what type of data using what type of visual? The next category comes is the DAX. You know, it is one of the most favorite and one of the most asked interview questions in Power BI. Okay, many of the major firms, they look for the ideal candidate who can write the complex DAX queries in Power BI, right? So in DAX queries, okay, when you are preparing for DAX, there are many there are some common DAX functions which you can focus on, like aggregated DAX functions. There are date and time DAX functions, there are time intelligence DAX functions, okay, and there are filter functions. Okay, these are some of the important functions you need to prepare for in very good way so that you are cracking any of the DAX query interviews question, right? So consider this question over here. You need to calculate the year to date sales growth percentage in Power BI. How would you write the DAX formula for this, and what considerations would you take into account while writing this DAX query, right? Great. The next thing is about the performance optimization. Okay, the performance optimization part is where the interviewer checks like how efficient you are with creating the reports, okay, how well you can manage your performance of the reports, okay, because what can happen is when you are creating a report, the Power BI either it becomes slow or the report is loading very slow, right? So how would you identify and how would you address the performance bottleneck which comes while loading the data, okay, in terms of both retrieval of the data and the visualization rendering, right? So this question is also very important when you are interviewing for a Power BI role. The next thing is about the Power Query. So you know that whenever you are loading the data from the data source, the data might not be clean. The data might have some discrepancies. So to avoid that, we use the Power Query editor to perform the transformations in data, right? So let's say the scenario is you have been given a very large data set, and you want to filter out only the relevant rows before loading it into the Power BI to improve the performance. So how would you achieve this using the Power Query editor, right? So make sure that you are preparing well on each of the data transformations in the Power Query editor. The next comes is data integration. So data integration is very important, because whenever you are working in data in Power BI, the data has to be from any of the many different data sources like Excel, SQL database, then web APIs. Okay, the source of the data can be anything. Okay, because in Power BI you can load the data from more than 150 plus data sources. So now the main question comes is like, how would you integrate that data and consolidate the data from these diverse sources in Power BI for comprehensive analysis? Because let's say some of my data is in Excel file, some of my data is from SQL Server, some is from Azure Data Cloud. Okay, so I need to combine these data, and then I need to work on these data sets. Okay, so make sure that you are well prepared for this data integration part of the interview. The next thing comes is the dynamic reporting. Let's say that you are given a task to create a Power BI report where the users can dynamically change the time period for analysis. Okay, so how would you implement this dynamic date filtering in the report? Okay, so this is also a very important area. There can be more questions on this thing. Okay, so make sure you prepare well. The next comes is the most asked, and definitely 100% you are going to face this question in your interview. That is about the row level security. Okay, so let's say that company wants to restrict access to certain sales data based on the user's role. So how would you implement a row level security in Power BI to ensure that each user sees only the relevant data, right? So let's say for example, in your company there is a sales data from Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai. Okay, so now there are different managers in all the locations. Delhi has a separate manager, sales manager, then Mumbai, Bangalore, and Chennai as well. So now how will I ensure that the Chennai sales manager does not see the data for Bangalore sales or Delhi sales, right? So this is where the row level security is very important. And every of the interview questions, in every of the Power BI interview, you will definitely face this. So make sure that you are prepared well, you learn how to implement the row level security. Then the next thing comes is about the error handling. So when we are doing the ETL process, okay, when we are extracting, transforming, and loading the data, there can be some errors, okay, while loading the data into the Power BI. Okay, so there can be the error in the values, there can be error in the source data. Okay, so to overcome this, how will you identify those errors and how will you handle those errors? This is also very important, right? So make sure that you are very well prepared for all the type of worst case scenarios which can happen while loading the data into the Power BI. So this was all about the top 10 Power BI interview questions. Okay, this is all the scenario based questions, and I have categorized them into different type of categories. Okay, so if you want the answers for this as well, okay, please comment down below so that I will be making the next video on how on all the answers you can use, okay, for this Power BI video. The next thing is uh, before apart from this, okay, there can be many more questions. Okay, so whenever you are working on the data sets, whenever we are showing your work to anyone, make sure that you are well aware of that, and at least to crack a Power BI interview, at least you should create some dashboards with you. Okay, so that you know that how the end-to-end process works in Power BI, right? Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. I hope you liked this video, and if you want more such content like that, please comment down below, so I'll try to come up with more such contents in the future, right? Okay, so that's it for this video, and thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more. Know your data.